Hello and welcome back to the KCC channel. I'm Rob and I hope you are having a wonderful day today. Today we're jumping back into some malicious compliance. Before we start, if you're new here, make sure to hit that subscribe button. It's completely free and you can always change your mind later. But please don't change your mind because my self-worth relies on those numbers. Our first story today comes to us from Tekuzo. Shut up and do what I tell you. Okay, boss, let's jump right in. Hello, my home country of Canada just happened to have an incident where Rogers, one of the big three telecommunications companies, accidentally cut off all telecommunications for 25% of Canada, as well as the point-of-sale systems for most businesses across the country. This reminded me of a malicious compliance incident that happened during my time working at a call center for a Canadian telecommunications company, and I thought I could share my story. This tale starts all the way back in 2013 and involves my time working at a call center at the fourth largest national cellular carrier. For a little bit of context about Canadian telecommunications, and specifically cell phone services, Canada is the second largest nation on Earth by landmass with one of the lowest population densities, and the federal government has some strict laws about foreign ownership and financing of telecommunications. As a result of this, cell phone plans are very expensive, and the only companies that offer service are already established large companies with the resources to purchase spectrum and set up infrastructure. My employer was a newcomer to the market and was trying to make a splash by offering lower price services on the recently auctioned off AWS spectrum. The expensive cell phone plans that were offered in Canada were a real hot button issue. Such a hot button that in the 2011 federal election, all of the major political parties campaigned with the promise to make services better and lower prices. I think even the Bloc had a campaign promise too. The result of this election was that in 2013, the CRTC, Canadian Radio and Television Commission, revised a bunch of the laws that regulated cell phone providers, specifically cell phone contracts. The updated laws were called the CRTC Code of Conduct. The new wireless code made a bunch of changes, but the most important were that cell phone contracts were required to be written in plain English instead of legalese, and any service advertised as unlimited cannot have an overage charge by law. These new regulations were a very big deal at the time, and employees at the call center I worked at were required to sit through multiple training sessions and take quizzes and tests about this to make sure we knew and understood the new laws. When this was happening, I was working in the back office department in one of the call centers for this cellular carrier. The back office department serves several functions, but I had managed to find a niche in the department. I had become responsible for monitoring people's roaming usage when traveling outside of Canada and disconnect them before they get bill shock. At the time, it was not uncommon to find news stories of people coming home from a trip and having an $85,000 phone bill. And I was the sole person responsible for making sure that this didn't happen. Also, I worked part-time 3 days a week. The supervisor of the back office department did not get along with me. He would constantly harass me. I was previously in the technical support department where he was the supervisor when the harassment began. I eventually became frustrated with the way I was being treated and transferred away from the technical support to back office so that I could escape from the abuse I was receiving. A couple of months after I transferred, he transferred too and became my supervisor once again, and the abuse continued. I'm not sure what I did to this person to make this person treat me the way that they did, but we had an antagonistic relationship for as long as he was my supervisor. So in 2014, my employer became the first carrier, to my knowledge, to offer unlimited USA roaming. You could pay $15 a month on top of your normal monthly plan and get unlimited roaming in the United States. They also had offered a trucker plan, $35 a month total, that would have unlimited voice, SMS, and data anywhere in North America, and it was marketed directly to long-haul truckers. This add-on and plan were a pretty big deal, as other carriers were charging $2 to $5 per megabyte for data roaming. Doing a bit of research, Solo Mobile charges $6 per megabyte for USA roaming to this day. To my mind, monitoring USA roaming is no longer a high priority as I can't disconnect people that have this add-on or appropriate plan because it's against the law. I continue to monitor roaming usage, and every time I see a user with a massive amount of data usage, I go into their account to confirm the existence of the add-on or a plan that would allow for this roaming usage. Once confirmed, I move on to the next account. My focus quickly starts to be focused on people traveling in Europe, Asia, and Africa. There are fewer people roaming in those locations as Canada doesn't share a land border with them, and the data roaming rate is a lot more expensive, to the tune of $20 per megabyte. This is going well for a couple of weeks until my supervisor comes up and asks why I'm not deactivating the accounts traveling in the United States anymore. I attempt to explain that I can't deactivate these customers as they have an appropriate plan or add-on, and if I were to do this, then the company would be in violation of the new laws. We have a back and forth about this, and the discussion ends when he says something to the effect of, "Just shut up and do what I told you." Maybe he said, "Shut up and do your job." I just remember hearing "shut up." Alright, fine. If that's the way you want to do it, can you send me an email with those instructions, please? Normally, I would work at my normal work pace, but that day specifically, I was flying through accounts. I'm not sure how many people I deactivated. I was cutting people off left, right, and center. I went home that night and knew that there would be fallout, and I felt incredibly guilty for negatively affecting the honest customers that were caught in the crossfire of my supervisor's BS. Because I was part-time and only working 3 days a week, I wouldn't see the fallout for 4 more days. When I got back to work, the situation was apparently complete chaos. The entire department had spent the 4 days that I was off trying to reactivate people, and they wouldn't be finished for a couple more days still. I had heard rumors that some people, important people, had threatened lawsuits and all sorts of other crap as a result of being cut off when they had purchased plans advertised with unlimited data in the USA. The supervisor manager tried to blame me, but I had the email and witnesses to our conversation to back me up. I don't know if the supervisor got in trouble over this incident. Nothing happened to me over this incident. I do know that he was eventually promoted to being the general manager of the call center and subsequently fired years later when we brought in a union over the crappy working conditions. A lot of these stories get to the point of OPs asking their boss to put something in an email. Now, you have to think from the boss's point of view. I know they're busy people, but if they tell somebody to do something and that person immediately turns around and says, "Can I get that in writing?" they should sit back and think about this for a second, because obviously somebody's hanging out a rope here. OP, it sounds like your boss was a very windy person, and I sincerely hope you got your freedom from working with them. This next story comes to us from Plogan56. My friend's cousin complied with his cool family's demands. Let's jump right in. This happened a while back, maybe 3 to 4 years. My college friend told me about how his cousin basically screwed over his family by moving out when they told him to. Note, to make it easier to follow, I'm going to use fake names: Cousin Jack, cousin sister Tina, cousin's parents Bob and Mary. So Jack is roughly 28 and still living with his parents, but he pays their bills: electric, water, internet, etc. And this is a big 2-story house, so the bills are big too. His sister, 24, had left the house by then and had gotten married to a guy that makes good money. She had taken credit for paying the bills and convinced Bob and Mary to kick him out because he's a shut-in loser, because none of them understood his job. A bit of backstory on their parents. My friend tells me they're like those stereotypical teens in those cliche high school movies. Basically, they look down on nerds and think people who study hard are uncool, that type of thing. Anyway, they keep that mentality even after growing up and having kids. So they always look down on Jack for being nerdy and favoritize Tina because she was pretty and popular in high school. But apparently Jack didn't really care because his personal life had friends he cared about, and he connected more with his relatives. So they all confront him, and after badmouthing him about how he stays in his room mostly and how his sister, her husband and child need the space, told him he has till the end of the month to leave. This was done close to the first week. Jack didn't say a word. He just nodded and left by the end of that week and moved 3 cities away to a city closer to his other relatives. 2 months go by and his sister calls him asking why this month's bills weren't paid, as their lights and water had been shut off. He tells her that she should have paid them since she was allegedly paying them before. About a week goes by and he gets a call from his parents explaining how his sister confessed to everything and how he can come back and have his old room back so long as he kept helping them pay the bills. He refused, saying he's enjoying living by himself now and how he can focus on his work more because he's away from them. Afterwards, he blocked their numbers and now they have to pay for it themselves. He doesn't know what happened after because they're no longer invited to family gatherings. So what happened here is that OP's parents basically kicked out the golden goose and then they complained about the missing eggs. I absolutely love how they came back to OP though and said, "Oh, you can come back and have your room, just gotta pay our bills again." Right. Do they think OP's a complete moron? Because come on, nobody's gonna take that deal. This next story comes to us from Demon in the Stacks. Want me to scrub the registers at peak time? Sure thing, boss. Let's jump right in. I work in the store where you pay for a cart and the cashiers all sit. The store floors frequently get pretty dirty because, well, there's a lot of customers coming in and out, especially at the time this story happens. I'm doing some backstock when the manager on duty comes up to me and says, "Hey, store manager wants you to scrub produce and the register area." Keep in mind, our scrubber is a behemoth, loud, and can be difficult to maneuver. Not the best equipment to pull out at 5 p.m. on a Monday. Also, there are lines 8 to 10 people deep at both open registers. I point this out to the manager on duty and she just shrugs, saying, "Just get it done." Okay then, I pull out the scrubber and happen to get a lucky break. Produce is empty, so it only takes me a couple of minutes. Now the registers, still crowded. I take the scrubber around the empty registers, feeling the glare of customers on my back. Whether it was from the noise or the wait, I don't know, and nor do I care. Now I'm left with the 2 jam-packed registers. There's no way I could ask people to wait a moment to let me through. They're already pissed. I can see the manager coming, gesturing at me to get it done. So I do the most efficient thing I can think of. I go to the back of the line, shut down the scrubber, and wait. And wait, and wait, and wait. Customers are lining up behind me, and the cashiers are holding back a laugh as I creep closer. Finally, I'm next, and I run the scrubber through the registers. Thankfully, the line on the second register cleared just as I was finishing the first. All done. I take the scrubber back to the back room, and I had just started to empty it when the store manager comes storming in. "Why did that take you so long? Scrubbing is supposed to go quickly. We're too busy for you to be standing around." You wanted me to scrub the registers, but the registers were packed. I told manager on duty that it would take a while. "You weren't scrubbing, you were just standing in line." Yep, that's the best way to get through the line. The store manager and I have a stare down for a few seconds before she throws up her hands and walks away. And I've never been asked to scrub the registers during peak times again. What was this store manager looking for? "Oh, I'm so sorry I didn't get it done so quickly. Next time, I'm just gonna run down the customers at the register, just to get the job done." That's what you want, right? I mean, there could be added benefits here for some of those customers. That might be the first bath they've had in ages. One more thing to touch on here. When a boss tells you to go and do something and you come back at them looking for some clarification and they say, "Just get it done," that generally means they can't figure it out either. But it's easier for them to make it a peon's problem than actually figure out a solution. This next story comes to us from the Fire Drake 42. Told to come to drill weekend with pink eye? If you say so. Let's jump right in. National Guard. I got pink eye once the day before drill weekend. Called my sergeant and was told I still had to come to first formation. I told him that's a bad idea because it's very contagious, and I could spread it to the whole company, and that I'd be happy to make up the drill when it clears up. He says, "I don't care, you're not a doctor, it's probably nothing. Your butt better be here in the morning. I even offered to send a photo of my eye. No dice. I drive an hour to my unit Saturday morning, and no one with any authority will see me, cause they're too busy or not there yet. Then, about 5 minutes before first formation, I find the company first sergeant and ask him if I can see a medic about my pink eye. He looks at me, looks closer, and blows the F up. Why the hell are you here if you have pink eye? You could give that crap to everyone here. Why didn't you call in sick? I tried, First Sergeant. I called yesterday and Sergeant Moron said I'm not a doctor and my butt better be here this morning, so I'm here. First Sergeant then flags down a different sergeant, tells him to take me upstairs to our little in-house medical office and get checked out. Then he left to go choose Sergeant Moron a new one, but not before turning back and yelling, "And don't touch anything." So we go, doctor immediately says, "Yep, you have pink eye. These are the drops you need to buy. You're dismissed from this drill, head to CVS, get these drops, and go home. Get with your leadership and you can make up this weekend when your eye clears up." Note, this was just an armory, so we didn't stock any actual medical supplies beyond band-aids and ibuprofen. Yes, sir. So I leave, get the drops, and drive an hour all the way back home. It was just such an effing waste of time and gas. Found out Monday that by Sunday afternoon, 3 other specialists had pink eye symptoms and left early. And Sergeant Moron got an official dressing down by the company commander for this F-up. All of it could have been avoided. His excuse? I thought OP was lying. Never missed a drill in 6 years, but sure, I'm gonna start now. I did make up the drill weekend 2 weeks later over a Tuesday and a Wednesday. And Sergeant Moron wouldn't even look at me, let alone apologize. Just gave me a list of simple chores to work on and left me to it for 2 days. Shake my head. Some people shouldn't be in a leadership position. This right here is kind of baffling to me. So you're sick and you tell your boss that you're sick, but you have to drive for an hour to be told officially that you're sick and you should go home and rest. What's up with that? Also, I kind of think that OP should have gotten credit for that time anyway, because they did drive for an hour to get there while following direct orders, and then they had to drive an hour back. They did make the attempt to go, they should have gotten the credit. Check out all 4 OPs linked in the description down below. I thank you for watching, I hope you have a wonderful day, and we'll see you tomorrow.